or as a threat. So the black male, when operating as a pet, as the musician, as the athlete, as the entertainer, that person becomes acceptable in the eyes of the white male. But when the black male steps out of that role as a pet in American society and emerges as a threat, then the white male needs to quash the black male. So the white male sees the black male as a pet, and the second the pet becomes a threat, a football player takes a knee during the national anthem, an entertainer begins to talk about things like race relations in America, all of a sudden that pet is no longer the pet, is now a threat. And that image of the black male as a threat becomes personified in the most dangerous person according to the 6 o'clock news. That person is the unidentified black male, who leads every news report as the one who has committed pretty much every single crime in American society. Today, an unidentified black male was responsible for a drive-by shooting. Today, an unidentified black male killed someone in a robbery. This unidentified black male is approximately 5'8" or 6'8" tall. Weighs anywhere from 150 to 300 pounds. Anywhere from 15 to 45 years old. If you have seen such a black male, please report this black male immediately. He is a threat to our society. So a 12-year-old kid playing in a park is a threat.
Wow.
A teenager in a hoodie with Skittles and an iced tea in his pocket is a threat. An 18-year-old high school student who happens to be larger than an average kid is now automatically a threat. None of them are armed, but they are now threats. So we have created a world where the gaze of the white male seeing the black male has now been determinative of how we view the black male. But here's another equation that I think is now a part of our dialogue. When the black male gazes upon the white female, what happens to the black male? And until is what happens to the black male. Lynchings, killings, murder, all the things that we know in our history of how the black male as a threat to the white female, especially a sexualized threat, now means that the black male again needs to be quashed, needs to be restrained. And that's why it is no accident when a presidential candidate opens his first words as a presidential candidate by identifying Mexicans as rapists. That was not an accident. That was intentionally buying into this narrative of anybody who is other is a threat to our well-being. So someone who is a Mexican must be a rapist or a killer. Someone who is an African American must be a murderer. And so we must stop and frisk these individuals. So anybody who is an other, who is a Muslim, must be a terrorist. Who is this, must be this. The gaze of the white male has shaped and formulated how we view others. And what we need to do is not allow that to be normalized in our society. That is what has happened with the election, where the electoral body said his views are normal. His views are now definitive. And so an alternative theological imagination must be created. And that's where the church comes in. That's the role of the church. We say we will not allow dysfunctional individuals to create our imagination. We say we will not allow a warped society and warped leaders in our society to shape our imagination. We say this imagination that we have towards one another, how we view one another, arises out of the way that God has created us. And we see each other as made in the image of God. We see each other as good, the way that God had intended us to be. And out of that imagination emerges that beloved community. Out of that imagination we embody that beloved community. So even as the world is going to be dysfunctional because they have bought into this narrative of lies and this dysfunction of threat, now we as a church say we will offer an alternative theological imagination. We will offer an alternative vision of what society can be. one challenge I will leave you with. We cannot create this new imagination through the conventional means. Clearly, white evangelicalism failed miserably in its discipleship over this past several decades. When you have elevated a racist to the highest office based upon the white evangelical vote, you have failed as a community to disciple your people well. So a new approach needs to be taken. And this is what Dr. Curtis Young was talking about. We take our leadership not from a community that has talked about triumphalism and victory and taking over the world and making America great. We take our lead from a community that has suffered much and have relied more and more upon the sovereignty and wisdom of God, the African American Church. That community has offered up lament in its worship, in its preaching, in its life, in its community life. And that lament that is missing in our church right now is a discipline we recover, and through that we change our prophetic and theological imagination.